The text message glowed like a knife in the dark. "Lol. Did you really think I'd show up? This was just for laughs. Have fun sitting there alone, loser." Darius Mitchell stared at his phone, the words blurring as humiliation crashed over him like a wave. Around him, the restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the warmth of people who belonged. He sat frozen at a table for two $50 in his wallet, a single father who dared to hope and got gutted for it. Across the room, a woman in a tailored blazer watched him with sharp, knowing eyes. She saw what no one else did. A man trying not to break. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if it moves you, hit that like button. Now, let me tell you how one night of humiliation became the beginning of everything. The rain had stopped an hour before Darius Mitchell stepped off the bus, but Boston still smelled like wet pavement and diesel. He tugged his jacket tighter against the October chill and checked his phone for the third time. The restaurant was 2 blocks away. He had 30 minutes. 30 minutes to become someone other than tired. His reflection caught in a storefront window, lean, mid-30s, deep brown skin, close-cropped coils with a few silver strands starting at the temples. The jacket was old but clean. The shirt beneath it had been pressed that morning while Nia ate cereal and asked why Daddy was dressing fancy. "Just meeting a friend," he'd told her. She'd squinted at him, suspicious in the way only 7-year-olds could be. A friend or a friend? He'd kissed her forehead instead of answering. Now, standing outside Morello's bistro, Darius felt the weight of that half-truth settle in his chest. This wasn't just dinner. It was the first time in 3 years he'd let himself imagine something beyond survival. The first time since Tanya died that he'd downloaded a dating app, swiped through profiles with sweaty palms, and messaged someone who seemed kind. Her name was Jessica, good conversations and better company. For 2 weeks they texted. She'd seemed warm, real, interested. Darius inhaled slowly, pulled open the restaurant door, and stepped inside. The warmth hit him first, then the noise. Soft jazz played over speakers tucked into exposed brick walls. Couples leaned over candlelit tables, sharing plates of pasta and murmured secrets. A waiter glided past with a tray of wine glasses balanced like an offering. Darius's stomach tightened. He approached the host stand, a polished young woman with a tablet and a professional smile. "Reservation?" she asked. "Mitchell, table for 2, 7 o'clock. She tapped the screen, nodded. "Right this way." She led him to a small table near the window, the kind of spot that felt romantic in movies and exposing in real life. Darius sat, smoothed his napkin across his lap, and checked his phone again. "Jessica, running a few minutes late, be there soon." Relief loosened his shoulders. He ordered water, declined the wine list, and glanced at the menu. Entree started at $22. His budget was tight, but manageable. If they split an appetizer, kept it simple, he'd be fine. The minutes ticked by. 7:15, 7:30. He texted, "No worries, take your time." No response. Around him, the restaurant hummed with easy laughter. A couple 3 tables over clinked glasses. A child's giggle floated from somewhere near the back. Darius watched the door, willing it to open, willing her to walk through it with an apology and that same warm smile from the photos. 7:45. His water glass was empty. The waiter hovered nearby, polite but pointed. "Still waiting on someone, sir?" "Yeah," Darius said. "She's just traffic, probably." The waiter nodded with the kind of smile that said he'd seen this before. Darius's phone buzzed. His heart jumped, then plummeted. "Jessica, LOL. Did you really think I'd show up? This was just for laughs. My friends bet me I couldn't get some desperate single dad to sit alone in a restaurant. Have fun sitting there alone, loser." The words didn't sink in all at once. They came in waves. Just for laughs. Desperate single dad. Loser. Heat flooded his face. His vision narrowed. The restaurant kept moving. Forks scraping plates, conversations rising and falling. But Darius sat paralyzed, staring at the screen. He wanted to leave. Wanted to vanish into the rain-slicked streets and pretend this never happened. But his legs wouldn't move. His pride, fragile and battered, refused to let him slink away like a wounded animal. So he sat. He picked up the menu again, pretended to read it, and told himself he was fine. He wasn't fine. Across the restaurant, Evelyn Grant saw everything. She hadn't meant to notice him. She'd come to Morello's alone, as she often did to escape the relentless hum of her company. As CEO of Harvest and Hearth, an organic food brand she'd built from the ground up, her life was meetings, negotiations, and carefully managed public appearances. Dinner alone was a luxury, a chance to think without performance. But tonight, her attention snagged on the man by the window. He'd arrived early, nervous. She'd watched him smooth his jacket, check his phone, glance at the door with a hope so raw it made her chest ache. She knew that look. She'd worn it once, years ago, before she learned to armor herself in competence and control. Then she saw him read the message. The change was immediate. His shoulders curled inward, his jaw tightened. He didn't cry, didn't rage. He just sat there, holding himself together with visible effort. Evelyn's fingers tightened around her wine glass. She'd spent a decade in boardrooms learning to read people. She knew humiliation when she saw it, and she knew with unsettling clarity that whoever had sent that message had no idea what kind of man they'd just gutted. The waiter approached him again. "Ready to order, sir?" Darius's voice was steady, controlled. "I'll just take the check for the water." "No charge for water, sir." "Right, thanks." He started to stand. Evelyn moved before she could second-guess herself. She caught the waiter's eye, gestured subtly, and then walked across the restaurant with the same calm authority she brought to contract negotiations. She stopped at Darius's table just as he pushed his chair back. "Excuse me," she said. He looked up, startled. His eyes were dark, guarded, still glassy from whatever he'd read. "I'm sorry to intrude," Evelyn continued, her voice low and even, "but I noticed you've been waiting a while. I'm sitting alone tonight, and I hate eating by myself. Would you consider joining me?" Darius blinked. What? What? "I'm serious. No strings, just dinner. You look like you could use a decent meal, and I could use the company." He swallowed. "I don't need charity." "Good," Evelyn said, "because I'm not offering it. I'm offering dinner. There's a difference." For a long moment, Darius just stared at her. She was striking. Mid-30 AS, auburn hair pulled back in a low knot, sharp cheekbones softened by candlelight. But it was her eyes that held him. They weren't pitying, they were steady, almost challenging. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because you showed up," she said simply. "That matters." Something in his chest cracked. He glanced down at his phone, at the cruel words still glowing on the screen, then back at this stranger offering him dignity when he had none left. "Okay," he said. Evelyn smiled, small, genuine, and gestured toward her table. "Good, let's eat." They sat across from each other in a quiet corner booth, far from the window where Darius had waited like a fool. The waiter brought menus, refilled water glasses, and left them in a pocket of relative privacy. For the first few minutes, neither spoke. Darius studied the menu without seeing it. His mind was still spinning, caught between humiliation and disbelief. This woman, polished, confident, clearly out of his league, had just rescued him from the worst moment of his year. He didn't know whether to be grateful or mortified. "Order whatever you want," Evelyn said, breaking the silence. "It's on me." "You don't have to." "I know, but I'm going to." He looked at her, searching for condescension, but found only calm certainty. "Why are you doing this?" he asked again. Evelyn set down her menu and met his gaze. "Because I've been where you are. Not exactly, but close enough. And someone helped me once when I needed it. So now I'm helping you. That's all." You don't even know me." "No, but I know what it looks like when someone's trying not to break. And I respect that." The waiter returned. Evelyn ordered grilled salmon and risotto without hesitation. Darius, still reeling, ordered the cheapest pasta on the menu out of habit. "Get the steak," Evelyn said. "I don't..." "Darius..." She leaned forward slightly. "Get the steak, trust me." He exhaled slowly, then nodded at the waiter. "The ribeye, medium." When the waiter left, Evelyn raised her wine glass. "To showing up even when it's hard." Darius hesitated, then lifted his water glass. "To strangers who give a damn." They clinked glasses. And for the first time that night, Darius felt something other than shame. "So," Evelyn said, settling back in her seat, "tell me something real." "Real?" "Yeah, not small talk. Not what do you do for work, or how about this weather. Something that matters." Darius laughed, sharp and startled. "That's a hell of an opener." "I don't like wasting time." He studied her for a moment, then set down his glass. All right, real. I have a daughter, Nia. She's 7. And tonight was the first time in 3 years I let myself believe I could be more than just her dad. That I could be someone who gets to want things again. Evelyn's expression softened. And, he added, voice rough, I was wrong. No, she said firmly. You weren't wrong to want things. You were just unlucky tonight. There's a difference. Feels the same from where I'm sitting. Maybe, but you're still here. That counts. Their food arrived and the conversation shifted. Lighter? Easier? Evelyn told him about Harvest and Hearth, how she'd started it in her kitchen 10 years ago with a loan and a dream. Darius told her about Nia, about her obsession with dinosaurs and her terrible knock-knock jokes. She asked me if I was meeting a friend tonight, Darius said, smiling despite himself. I didn't know how to answer. Evelyn laughed, a real unguarded sound that surprised them both. Smart man. Cowardly man? No, Evelyn said. Protective. There's a difference. They ate slowly, the restaurant thinning around them as the night deepened. Darius found himself talking more than he had in months. About Tanya, about the cancer that took her when Nia was 4, about the weight of being both mother and father to a little girl who still asked when mommy was coming home. Evelyn listened without interruption, without platitudes. When he finished, she simply said, You're doing a good job. You don't know that. Yes, I do, Evelyn said, because you're here trying. That's what good parents do. Darius's throat tightened. He looked down at his plate, at the steak he couldn't have afforded, at the napkin twisted in his lap. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not letting me disappear tonight. Evelyn's hand moved across the table slowly, deliberately, and rested near his, not touching but close enough to feel the warmth. You don't have to disappear, she said. Not anymore. When the check came, Evelyn handed over her card before Darius could protest. They walked out together into the cool Boston night, the streets slick with reflected streetlights. Can I give you a ride? Evelyn asked. I'm taking the bus. Darius? He smiled, tired but genuine. I appreciate it, but I need the walk. She nodded, understanding. Then at least let me give you my number, in case you ever want to have dinner again with someone who actually shows up. He pulled out his phone, still bearing the scar of Jessica's message, and added her contact. Evelyn Grant. I'll text you, he said. Good. They stood there for a moment, 2 strangers who'd become something else in the span of 2 hours. Darius, Evelyn said, you deserve better tonight, but you handled it with grace. Don't forget that? He nodded, unable to speak past the knot in his throat. Evelyn walked to her car, a sleek black sedan that fit her the way confidence fit tailored suits. Darius watched her go, then turned toward the bus stop, hands in his pockets, heart still bruised but no longer broken. That night, after Nia was asleep, he sat on the edge of his bed and stared at Evelyn's number. He almost deleted it, almost convinced himself it was pity and she'd forget him by morning. But then he remembered the way she'd looked at him across the table, not with sympathy, but with respect. You showed up, that matters. He typed a message. Darius, thank you for tonight, I mean it. He hit send before he could overthink it. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. Evelyn, thank you for saying yes. Same time next week? Darius stared at the words, at the possibility they carried. Then, for the first time in years, he let himself smile and believe it. Darius, I'll be there. The coffee shop on Newbury Street was nothing like Morello's. No candlelight, no jazz, no waiters in pressed shirts gliding between tables. Just the hiss of espresso machines, the clatter of ceramic mugs, and a line of customers scrolling through phones while they waited for overpriced lattes. Darius arrived 10 minutes early, claiming a corner table near the window. He ordered black coffee, $2 manageable, and tried to ignore the way his pulse jumped every time the door opened. This was different from last week. This wasn't a date born from desperation and apps. This was intentional, mutual, real. At least he hoped it was. The door chimed. Evelyn stepped inside, scanning the room with that same composed focus he remembered. Today she wore jeans and a charcoal sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked softer somehow, less like a CEO, and more like someone who decided to let her guard down. Their eyes met. She smiled. Darius exhaled. You came, he said as she reached the table. Evelyn set her bag down and raised an eyebrow. Did you think I wouldn't? I don't know. Maybe I thought you'd come to your senses. My senses are fine, thanks. She gestured toward the counter. Want anything else? My treat. I'm good with coffee. Darius, get a muffin or something. You look like you haven't eaten today. He laughed despite himself. Are you always this direct? Always. It saves time. She walked to the counter without waiting for his answer and returned 5 minutes later with a blueberry scone, a cappuccino, and a croissant she placed in front of him. I said I was fine, and I didn't ask. She settled into her chair, wrapping her hands around her mug. So, how was your week? Darius tore off a piece of croissant, still warm and buttery. Honestly, strange. I kept thinking about last week, about what you said. Which part? That I deserved better, that showing up mattered. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I'm not used to people seeing me that way. What way? Like I'm worth the effort. Evelyn's expression didn't shift, but something in her eyes softened. You are. You just forgot for a while. Maybe. He took a sip of coffee, letting the silence settle. What about you? How was your week? Chaotic. We're launching a new product line in 3 months, and my marketing team thinks I'm a tyrant because I vetoed their campaign concept. Were they right? Absolutely. But I'm a tyrant with standards, so it evens out. Darius laughed, genuine and surprised. What was wrong with the concept? It was safe, predictable. All glossy photos of perfect families eating organic granola in sunlit kitchens. No soul, no story. Just noise. She leaned forward slightly. I didn't build Harvest and Hearth to be another faceless brand. I built it because I wanted people to feel something when they bought my products. Connection, trust, like someone actually gave a damn about what they put on their table. So what did you tell them? To start over, find real people with real stories. Show me why anyone should care. Darius studied her across the table, this woman who spoke with the kind of certainty he had lost years ago. You're kind of terrifying, he said. You know that? Evelyn grinned. Good, keeps people sharp. They talked for 2 hours. The coffee shop emptied and refilled around them, afternoon light shifting from gold to gray. Darius told her about Nia's latest obsession, a documentary about paleontologists that had turned every walk to school into a fossil hunt. Evelyn told him about her childhood in Vermont, about parents who taught her to cook before she could read, about the fire that burned down their family restaurant when she was 16. That's why you started the company? Darius asked. Partly. My parents rebuilt, but they were never the same. I watched them fight banks and insurance companies and lose pieces of themselves in the process. So I decided if I ever built something, I'd do it my way. No loans, no investors, just me and a kitchen and a whole lot of stubbornness. How long did it take? 10 years to get stable, another 5 to actually thrive. She traced the rim of her mug. People think success is this overnight thing. It's not. It's 1,000 small decisions and a lot of sleepless nights. Sounds familiar? Yeah. Darius nodded slowly. After Tanya died, I had to rebuild everything. Our life, our routines, the way I talked to Naya about her mom. It felt impossible at first, like I was building a house with no foundation. But you do it anyway, Evelyn said, because what's the alternative? Exactly. Evelyn's gaze held his. You keep building. The conversation drifted easy and unhurried until Darius glanced at his phone and swore softly. What? Evelyn asked. I have to pick up Nia in 20 minutes. I didn't realize how late it was. Where does she go after school? Neighbor watches her until I get home. Mrs. Chen. She's a lifesaver, but I hate asking her to stay late. Evelyn stood, gathering her things. Come on, I'll drive you. You don't have to. Darius, let me drive you. He wanted to argue, to preserve some scrap of independence, but the truth was he'd already missed the bus and couldn't afford an Uber. So he nodded, grateful and embarrassed in equal measure. Evelyn's car was as sleek and composed as she was. Black leather seats, faint scent of cedar, not a single receipt or coffee cup cluttering the interior. Darius gave her the address, and they pulled into Boston traffic, the city humming around them. Tell me about Nia, Evelyn said as they waited at a red light. What do you want to know? Everything. What's she like? Darius's face softened the way it always did when he talked about his daughter. She's fierce, smart as hell, asks a million questions and doesn't let me get away with half answers. She loves dinosaurs, hates broccoli, and has this laugh that sounds exactly like her mom's. That must be hard sometimes. Yeah, but it's also a gift. Like Tanya's still here in these little moments. They drove in silence for a while, the weight of memory settling between them. Do you ever worry, Evelyn asked quietly, about dating, how Nia might react? Or every day. I don't want her to think I'm replacing her mom or that she's not enough for me, but I also don't want her to grow up thinking love ends with loss. That's a hard line to walk. Tell me about it. He glanced at her. Do you have kids? No, I was married once, briefly. He wanted them. I wanted the company. Turns out those things don't mix well. Do you regret it? Evelyn considered, hands steady on the wheel. Not the choice, just the timing. I think I could have done both if I'd been brave enough to try. But I wasn't. So here we are. Here's not so bad. She smiled. No, it's really not. They pulled up to a small duplex with faded yellow siding and a porch crowded with potted plants. Mrs. Chen's house. Darius could see Nia through the window sitting at the kitchen table with a book. Her tight curls puffed into two little clouds, a pencil tucked behind her ear. Thanks for the ride, he said, unbuckling his seatbelt. This area, so he turned back. Same time next week? Evelyn asked. You don't get tired of me? Not yet. He grinned, boyish and unguarded. Then, yeah, same time. He stepped out, then paused and leaned back through the window. Hey, Evelyn. Yeah? Thanks for all of it. She held his gaze. You keep saying that. You know you don't have to, right? I know, but I mean it anyway. He walked toward the house, and Evelyn watched him go. This quiet, steady man who carried grief like a second skin, but still showed up, still tried, still believed in something beyond survival. She didn't pull away until he was inside. The weeks folded into a rhythm. Coffee on Saturdays became coffee and walks along the Charles River. Walks became dinners at small restaurants where they could talk for hours without performance. Darius learned that Evelyn hated cilantro, loved old noir films, and hummed when she was deep in thought. Evelyn learned that Darius had studied engineering before dropping out to care for Tanya, that he still read poetry late at night, that he carried a photo of Naya in his wallet, worn soft at the edges, a framed memory of a beautiful black family, the three of them smiling on a day when life still felt simple. They didn't rush, didn't push for labels or milestones. They just let the connection build, slow and sure, like a foundation you could trust. But there were complications. Darius worked as a janitor at a medical research facility downtown. The hours were long, the pay barely enough to cover rent and groceries. He'd been applying for better positions for months, medical technician roles that would use his old engineering coursework, but every application disappeared into silence. You should go back to school, Evelyn said one evening as they sat on a bench overlooking the river. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and crimson. Can't afford it, Darius said simply. Between rent and childcare and everything else, there's nothing left. What if someone helped? He looked at her sharply. No, Darius, No. His voice was firm, not angry. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I need to do this myself. For me. For Nia. I can't build something real if it's on someone else's foundation. Evelyn wanted to argue, to tell him pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. But she saw the set of his jaw and recognized the line he'd drawn. So instead she nodded. Okay, but if you change your mind, she started. I won't, but thank you. They sat in silence, watching joggers and cyclists pass, the city humming softly around them. There's a certification program, Darius said eventually. Medical technician training. It's a year-long, mostly online, some in-person clinicals. If I could swing it, I'd be qualified for jobs that actually pay enough to breathe. What's stopping you? Time, money, the fact that I'm barely keeping my head above water as it is. Evelyn turned to face him. What if you could make it work? What would that look like? Darius exhaled slowly. I'd need to cut my hours at the facility, find cheaper childcare, maybe pick up weekend shifts somewhere. It's possible, technically. Just barely. Then do it, Evelyn said. I'm serious. You're smart. You're capable. And you're wasting yourself cleaning floors for people who don't even see you. Darius swallowed because as a black single dad in his 30s, he'd gotten used to being overlooked in places that ran on badges and titles and assumptions. If there's a path forward, Evelyn continued, take it. What if I fail? Then you fail, she said, but at least you tried. She reached over, her hand resting on his. You told me you don't want Nia to think love ends with loss. Well, I don't want her to think trying ends with fear. Show her what courage looks like. Darius looked down at their joined hands, at this woman who somehow saw more in him than he saw in himself. You're kind of impossible, he said quietly. I've been told. He smiled, fragile but real. Okay, I'll look into it. Good. They sat there as the sun dipped below the skyline, two people building something neither could name yet, but both were starting to trust. The first time Nia asked about Evelyn, Darius wasn't ready. They were at the kitchen table, Nia working on math homework while Darius chopped vegetables for dinner. The radio played softly in the background, some pop song Nia hummed along to without thinking. Dad! Yeah, Bug. Who's the lady you keep texting? Darius's knife paused mid-chop. What lady? The one who makes you smile at your phone. You've been doing it for weeks. He set down the knife, wiped his hands on a towel, and turned to face his daughter. She looked up at him with Tanya's warm brown eyes, sharp, knowing, impossible to lie to. Her name's Evelyn, he said carefully. She's a friend. A friend or a friend? Nia pressed, dead serious. Dad, you said that last time, and then you came home sad. I'm not dumb. Darius sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. You're right. You're not dumb. You're the smartest person I know. Nia tapped her pencil against the table. So tell me the truth. He took a breath. Evelyn is someone I care about. Someone who makes me feel like I'm more than just your dad. Like I'm allowed to want things for myself, too. Nia studied him for a long moment. Her little forehead creased like she was doing serious math. Do you love her? I don't know yet, he admitted. Maybe. Is that okay? Nia shrugged, but her eyes stayed serious. Does she make you happy? Yeah, she does. Then it's okay. Relief flooded through him. Yeah, he said. Yeah, but I want to meet her first, before you decide anything. Darius laughed, startled and proud. Deal. That night he texted Evelyn. Darius, Nia wants to meet you. No pressure, but would you be open to that? The response came quickly. Evelyn, I'd love to. When? Darius stared at the message, heart pounding with something between hope and terror. Saturday. Library and ice cream. Evelyn, perfect. I'll be there. This was real now, not just coffee dates and riverside conversations. This was his daughter, his whole world, meeting someone who might become part of their lives. He wanted it to work so badly it scared him. Saturday arrived cold and bright, the kind of November day that smelled like winter but hadn't quite committed. Darius and Nia walked to the public library hand in hand, her purple backpack bouncing with each step. Is she nice? Nia asked for the third time. Very. Is she pretty? She is. Prettier than Mom? Darius stopped walking. He knelt so they were eye level, his dark brown hands gentle but steady on her shoulders. No one will ever be your mom, Nia, ever. Evelyn isn't here to replace her. She's just someone who makes me feel less alone. Do you understand? Nia nodded slowly. Does she know about Mom? She does. I told her everything. Good. Nia adjusted her backpack. Okay, I'm ready. They found Evelyn near the children's section, browsing a shelf of picture books. She wore jeans and a cream sweater, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. When she saw them, she smiled. Warm, but careful, like she understood the weight of this moment. Hi, she said, kneeling to Nia's level. You must be Nia. I've heard so much about you. Nia studied her with the intensity of a scientist examining a specimen. Dad says you're smart. Evelyn smiled. He's kind. I just work hard. Do you like dinosaurs? I don't know much about them, Evelyn admitted, but I'd love to learn. Nia's expression shifted, cautiously approving. I can teach you. I know everything. Evelyn grinned. Then I'm in good hands. They spent the next hour wandering through the library. Nia pulled books off shelves explaining the difference between theropods and sauropods with the confidence of a PhD candidate. Evelyn listened with genuine interest, asking questions that made Nia glow with pride. Darius watched from a few steps back, his chest tight with something he couldn't quite name. This was more than he'd hoped for, more than he'd dared to imagine. After the library, they walked to a small ice cream shop 2 blocks away. Nia ordered mint chip. Evelyn got salted caramel. Darius stuck with vanilla, predictable and safe. They sat outside despite the cold, Nia swinging her legs and licking ice cream from her fingers. Evelyn, Nia said suddenly. Yeah, Bug? Do you have kids? No, I don't. Why not? Darius warned gently, but Nia didn't notice the edge in his voice. Kids asked what they wanted. It's okay, Evelyn said. She looked at Nia thoughtfully. I think I was scared for a long time. Scared of what? Scared I wouldn't be good at it. But I'm learning that being scared isn't a good reason not to try. Nia nodded, satisfied. Then she leaned closer to Evelyn and whispered, just loud enough for Darius to hear, You smell like my mom. Evelyn froze. Darius's breath caught. Oh, what do you mean? Evelyn asked softly. Your perfume, Nia said. Mom used to wear something that smelled like flowers and vanilla. Yours is close. Evelyn's eyes shimmered, but she didn't look away. That's a beautiful thing to notice. Nia shrugged and went back to her ice cream, but the moment lingered in the air between them. Later, after they walked Nia home and she disappeared into her room to draw, Darius and Evelyn stood on the porch in the fading light. She likes you, Darius said. I like her too. She's extraordinary. She is. He paused. What she said about the perfume... It's okay, Darius. I'm not trying to be Tanya. I couldn't if I wanted to. I know, but thank you for understanding what that meant. Evelyn stepped closer, her hand finding his. I meant what I said in there. I've been scared for a long time. But you and Nia, you make me want to try to be brave. Darius swallowed hard. I'm scared too. Good, Evelyn said softly. Then we can be scared together. He kissed her then, slow and tentative, like a question neither of them was ready to answer. When they pulled apart, Evelyn was smiling. Same time next week? Always. She walked to her car. Darius watched until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Then he went inside, where Nia was waiting with her dinosaur book and a million questions about fossils. But for the first time in years, Darius felt like maybe, just maybe, he was allowed to hope for something more than survival. That night, after Nia fell asleep clutching her stuffed triceratops, Darius sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and pulled up the certification program he'd been too afraid to apply for. His hands hovered over the keyboard, doubt whispering all the reasons it wouldn't work. Then he remembered Evelyn's words. Show her what courage looks like. He clicked submit. The acceptance email arrived on a Wednesday morning while Darius was mopping the third-floor hallway of the research facility. His phone buzzed in his pocket and he almost ignored it. Notifications during work hours were usually bill reminders or spam, but something made him pull it out, wipe his hands on his pants, and check the screen. Subject application approved. Medical Technician Certification Program. His heart stopped, then started again too fast. He read it 3 times to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. The program started in January, 8 weeks away. Tuition was manageable if he picked up extra shifts. The coursework was online except for monthly weekend clinicals. It was possible, barely, but possible. He wanted to call Evelyn immediately, to share this fragile new hope with someone who'd understand. But his supervisor was watching from the end of the hall. So Darius pocketed his phone, picked up the mop, and finished his shift with a smile he couldn't quite suppress. That evening, after Nia was fed and homework was checked and the dishes were drying in the rack, he finally called. Hey, Evelyn answered on the second ring. I was just thinking about you. Good thoughts, I hope. Always. What's up? Darius sat on the edge of his bed, suddenly nervous. I got in the certification program. I start in January. Silence, then Evelyn's voice, bright and fierce. Darius, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I haven't done anything yet. You applied. You took the first step. That's everything. He exhaled slowly, letting himself believe it. It's going to be tight. I'll have to cut back hours at the facility, and Mrs. Chen can only watch Nia certain nights. But I think I can make it work. You will make it work. And if you need help, I know, he said quickly. But I need to try this on my own first. I understand. A pause. Can I see you this weekend? Evelyn asked. Celebrate properly? I'd like that. Good. I'll pick you up Saturday. Dress warm. Where are we going? It's a surprise. Darius smiled despite himself. You know, I hate surprises. I know, Evelyn said. That's why I'm doing it. Saturday came with the kind of cold that made breath visible and fingers numb. Darius waited on the porch in his thickest jacket watching for Evelyn's car. Nia pressed her face against the living room window, waving enthusiastically. "Where's she taking you?" Nia called through the glass. "Don't know. Are you gonna kiss her?" "Nia..." She giggled and disappeared from the window just as Evelyn pulled up. Darius climbed into the car, grateful for the heater blasting warm air. "Ready?" Evelyn asked. "Still don't know where we're going." "Good, keep it that way." They drove north out of the city, traffic thinning as suburbs gave way to bare trees and open sky. Evelyn had the radio on low, some indie station playing songs Darius didn't recognize. She hummed along, fingers tapping the steering wheel, completely at ease. "You're really not going to tell me?" Darius asked after 20 minutes. "Nope." "What if I hate it?" You won't." Confident. Always. Another 15 minutes and they pulled off onto a narrow road lined with pine trees. A wooden sign appeared. "Meadowbrook Tree Farm. Cut your own." Darius turned to her. "We're getting a Christmas tree." "You said Nia's been asking for one," Evelyn said. "Figured we'd make it an occasion." His chest tightened the way it did when someone saw a need before he voiced it. "Evelyn, you didn't have to. I wanted to. Plus, I've never actually cut down a tree before. Seemed like something worth trying." They parked near a small cabin where an older man in a plaid jacket handed them a saw and a map of the farm. The air smelled like pine and cold earth, the ground crunching under their boots as they walked into the rows of evergreens. "What are we looking for?" Evelyn asked. "Something not too tall. Our apartment has low ceilings, and it has to be full. No bald spots. Nia is very particular." They wandered through the trees, debating the merits of each one like art critics in a gallery. Too skinny, too sparse, too crooked. Finally, they found a Fraser fir about 6 feet tall, perfectly symmetrical, with branches that begged for ornaments. "This one," Darius said. Evelyn circled it, inspecting. "You sure?" "Positive. Nia is going to lose her mind." "Then let's do it." Cutting down the tree took longer than either expected. The saw was dull, the trunk thicker than it looked, and neither of them had any real idea what they were doing. They took turns, laughing when the blade stuck, arguing good-naturedly about technique. "You're sawing at an angle," Evelyn said, slightly out of breath. "I'm following the grain." "There's no grain, Darius. It's a tree." "Exactly," he said, "which means there's definitely grain." He nudged her shoulder playfully. She grinned, sawdust clinging to his gloves. Finally, with one last push, the tree cracked and tipped. They caught it together, breathing hard, faces flushed from cold and exertion. "We did it," Evelyn said, eyes bright. "We did." They stood there for a moment, holding the tree between them, and Darius felt something shift. This wasn't just a kind gesture. This was intimacy, partnership, the quiet building of a life that included someone else. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For this, for seeing what I needed before I asked." That's what people do when they care about each other, Darius. They pay attention. They dragged the tree back to the car, strapped it to the roof with twine the farmer provided, and drove back to the city with pine needles scattered across the dashboard. When they pulled up to Darius's apartment, Nia was already outside, bundled in her winter coat, eyes wide. You got a tree!" she shrieked. "Oh, we got a tree," Darius corrected. Evelyn helped. Nia threw her arms around Evelyn's waist without hesitation, and Darius watched as Evelyn's surprise melted into something tender. She hugged Nia back, tentative at first, then firmer. "Can we decorate it now?" Nia asked, bouncing on her toes. "Let's get it inside first," Darius said. It took all three of them to wrestle the tree up the narrow stairs and through the apartment door. They set it in the corner of the living room, adjusted it twice, and stepped back to admire their work. "It's perfect," Nia breathed. "It really is," Evelyn agreed. They spent the afternoon decorating. Darius pulled out a box of ornaments from the closet. Some old, some handmade by Nia, a few that had belonged to Tanya. Nia carefully hung a wooden angel near the top. "Mom loved this one," Nia said quietly. "She did," Darius said, his throat tight. Evelyn didn't say anything. She just rested a hand on his shoulder, steady and present. They strung lights, hung tinsel, and played Christmas music from Darius's phone. Nia sang off-key and Evelyn laughed. And for a few hours the apartment felt less like a place they were surviving and more like a home. When the tree was finished, they ordered pizza and ate on the living room floor, the tree lights glowing softly in the corner. Nia fell asleep halfway through a movie, her head on Darius's lap, one hand clutching a slice of pepperoni. Evelyn helped him carry her to bed. They tucked her in together, and Nia mumbled something about dinosaurs before going still. Back in the living room, Darius and Evelyn sat on the couch, the only light coming from the tree and the muted TV. She's wonderful, Evelyn said. She is. Takes after her mom. She takes after you too, Evelyn said. The way she notices things, the way she cares. Darius looked at her, this woman who'd walked into his life at his lowest moment and stayed through every uncertain step since. I didn't think this was possible, he admitted. Feeling like this again, letting someone in. I know, Evelyn said. I didn't either. What changed? Evelyn traced the rim of her water glass. I stopped being afraid of wanting something that might hurt. Stopped thinking I had to protect myself from everything. And now, I think the risk is worth it. Darius reached for her hand. She laced her fingers through his. They sat like that, quiet and close, until Evelyn's phone buzzed. Work? Darius asked. Always. She stood reluctantly. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. He walked her to the door, not ready to let the day end, but understanding it had to. On the threshold, Evelyn turned back. Darius. Yeah? I'm falling for you, she said, just so you know. The words hung in the cold air between them. Honest and terrifying, and exactly what he needed to hear. I'm falling for you too, he said. She kissed him then, slow and sweet. And when she pulled away, her eyes were bright. Good, she said. Then we're on the same page. She left, and Darius stood in the doorway, watching her taillights disappear. Inside, the tree glowed softly, a reminder that some things were worth the risk of hoping. January arrived with snow and new routines. Darius started the certification program. His evenings now split between Nia's bedtime and online lectures on anatomy and medical equipment. The work was harder than he'd anticipated, the terminology dense, the exams unforgiving. He studied at the kitchen table after Nia slept, fueled by black coffee and determination. Evelyn helped where she could, quizzing him on terminology during their walks, sending encouraging texts when he was drowning in coursework, watching Nia on nights when Mrs. Chen wasn't available. You don't have to do this, Darius told her one evening as she helped Nia with a science project while he studied for an exam. I know, Evelyn said, barely looking up from the papier-mâché volcano, but I want to. Why? She met his eyes across the table. Because you matter to me. Both of you. Nia looked between them, then grinned. Evelyn's staying for dinner, right, Dad? If she wants to. I want to, Evelyn said softly. Slowly, carefully, they built something that looked like family. Evelyn started keeping a toothbrush at Darius's apartment. Darius learned how she took her coffee. Nia started calling her Ev instead of Evelyn, a nickname that made Evelyn's eyes shimmer the first time she heard it. But there were fractures too. Darius's hours at the facility had been cut to part-time to accommodate the program, and money got tighter. Some weeks he had to choose between groceries and Nia's winter boots. He hid it well, but Evelyn noticed the way he calculated totals at the store, the way he skipped meals to make sure Nia had enough. Let me help, Evelyn said one night after Nia was asleep. No, Darius said. Darius, true. I said no. His voice was sharper than he intended. I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't take your money. It'll change things between us. How? I'll feel like I owe you. Like I'm some project you're fixing instead of someone you're choosing. Evelyn's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Maybe not, he said, but it's how I feel. They argued in harsh whispers, careful not to wake Nia. Evelyn wanted to help. Darius refused to let her. Neither would budge. Finally, Evelyn grabbed her coat. I'm going home. We'll talk when you're ready to be reasonable. I am being reasonable. She paused at the door, expression somewhere between anger and hurt. No, Darius. You're being proud. There's a difference. She left. Darius sat alone in the quiet apartment, hating himself for pushing her away and hating the circumstances that made him feel like he had to. They didn't speak for 3 days. Darius buried himself in coursework and extra janitorial shifts. Nia asked where Evelyn was, and he gave vague answers that satisfied no one. At night, he stared at his phone, drafting apologies he never sent. On the 4th day, Evelyn showed up at the facility during his lunch break. She found him in the basement break room eating a sandwich that was more bread than filling. We need to talk, she said. Darius set down the sandwich. I know. She sat across from him, expression carefully controlled. I'm not trying to fix you, Darius. I'm trying to be part of your life. And part of being in a relationship is letting people help when things are hard. Ah, I know, but you don't understand what it's like. I've spent 3 years clawing my way up from nothing. If I start relying on you, on your money, I lose the thing that's kept me going, my independence, my dignity. Evelyn exhaled slowly. I get it, I do. But you're so focused on doing this alone that you're shutting me out, and that's not fair either. So what do we do? She reached across the table, her hand covering his. We compromise. You let me help in small ways that don't make you feel like a charity case. I respect your boundaries even when I think they're stupid. And we both stop being so damn stubborn. Darius laughed despite himself. You think I'm stubborn? I think we both are. It's why this works. He squeezed her hand. I'm sorry for being an ass. I'm sorry too, for pushing. They sat there for a moment, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the smell of burnt coffee lingering in the air. Naya misses you, Darius said. I miss her too, both of you. Come over tonight, he said. I'll make dinner. Well, he added quickly, I'll attempt dinner. Evelyn smiled. I'll bring dessert. That night they ate spaghetti that was slightly overcooked, and brownies Evelyn had picked up from a bakery. Nia chattered about her upcoming school play, and Evelyn listened with the kind of focus that made Naya glow. After dinner, they played a board game Nia always won. And when bedtime came, Nia hugged Evelyn tight. Don't leave again, she whispered. I won't, Evelyn promised. Not if I can help it. After Nia was asleep, Darius and Evelyn sat on the couch, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. I was scared, Darius admitted, that if I let you in completely, you'd see how broken I still am, how much I'm still figuring out. Darius, Evelyn murmured, we're all broken. We're all figuring it out. That's not a flaw. It's just being human. I don't want to disappoint you. You won't. You couldn't. She tilted her head to look at him. I'm not going anywhere, even when you're being stubborn and impossible. Good, he said, voice rough. Because I'm not sure I know how to do this without you anymore. She kissed him, slow and certain, and for the first time in days, Darius felt like he could breathe again. February brought the first clinical rotation. Darius spent a weekend at a teaching hospital shadowing technicians and learning equipment he'd only read about in textbooks. The work was exhilarating and exhausting, a glimpse of the life he was working toward. He came home Sunday night wired and exhausted, mind still buzzing. Nia was asleep at Mrs. Chen's and the apartment was dark and quiet. He was about to collapse on the couch when his phone rang. Evelyn. Hey, he answered. What's up? Are you home? She asked. Just got in. Why? Can I come over? I need to talk to you about something. Her tone was off, careful, measured. Darius's stomach tightened. Yeah, of course. She arrived 20 minutes later, still in her work clothes, hair pulled back messily like she'd been running her hands through it. She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. What's wrong? Darius asked as soon as she stepped inside. Evelyn set her bag down, took a breath. I got an offer, a big one, to expand Harvest and Hearth into the West Coast. Full product line launch, new facilities, partnerships with major retailers. That's incredible, Darius said. That's everything you've been working toward. I know. So what's the problem? She looked at him, conflict in her eyes. It means relocating to Portland for at least a year, maybe longer. The words hit him like cold water. Portland, he repeated. A year, maybe longer. When? They want me out there by April. 2 months. Darius sat down slowly, mind racing. What do you want to do? I don't know, she said, hands twisting in her lap. A year ago, I would have said yes immediately, no hesitation. But now there's you and Nia, and I don't want to lose what we're building. You won't, Darius said automatically, but the fear in his chest said otherwise. A year was a long time. What if you came with me? Evelyn asked quietly. He stared at her. What? You could finish the program online, find work in Portland. Nia could start over somewhere new. Evelyn, he said, voice strained. I can't just uproot her. She has school, friends, Mrs. Chen. Her whole life is here. I know, Evelyn said. I had to ask. They sat in heavy silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down. I need to think about this, Evelyn said finally. Figure out what's right. And if you decide to go, Darius said, forcing the words out, then we figure out how to make long distance work. if you want to try." "Of course I want to try," Evelyn said, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Even if it's hard, especially if it's hard." She leaned into him and he wrapped his arms around her, holding tight against the future neither could control. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." They stayed like that until Darius's phone buzzed, Mrs. Chen saying Nia was awake and asking for him. Evelyn left and Darius walked through the cold night to pick up his daughter, his mind spinning with questions he couldn't answer. The next 2 weeks were a blur of conversations that circled without landing. Evelyn met with her board, negotiated terms, weighed options. Darius threw himself into coursework, avoiding decisions he couldn't make. Then one night, Evelyn showed up with takeout and a bottle of wine. "I made my decision," she said. Darius's heart stopped. I'm going," Evelyn said, "but only for a year. 1 year and then I'm coming back." The board agreed to a temporary relocation with a built-in end date. Relief and grief tangled in his chest. "You're sure?" "No, but I think it's the right move for the company, for me. And I think if we're going to make this work long-term, we need to know we can survive being apart." "What if we can't?" Darius asked, voice rough. "Then at least we tried," Evelyn said. She set down the wine, took his hands. "I don't want safe anymore, Darius. I want real. Even if real is messy and hard and terrifying." He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "1 year," he whispered. "1 year," she echoed. "And then I come back." They told Nia together the following Saturday. She cried and they held her, promising video calls and visits and letters. Evelyn gave her a paper chain. 365 links, one for every day. "We'll tear off one each day I'm gone," Evelyn explained. "And when the chain is empty, I'll be home." Nia clutched the chain, tears streaming down her face. "Promise?" "I promise," Evelyn said. April came too fast. Evelyn's apartment was packed, her life condensed into boxes and suitcases. The night before she left, they had dinner at Morello's, the restaurant where everything had started. "Full circle," Evelyn said as they sat at a table near the window. "Yeah," Darius said. They ate slowly, memorizing each other's faces, filling the silence with everything they couldn't say. When the check came, Darius paid with money from his first paycheck as a medical technician intern, a small victory in a night full of goodbyes. Outside under the streetlights, Evelyn turned to him one last time. "I love you," she said. "I should have said it sooner, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Darius Mitchell." His vision blurred. "I love you too." They kissed like people trying to hold on to something slipping through their fingers. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn was crying. "1 year," she whispered. "1 year," he echoed. She got in her car and he watched until the taillights disappeared. Then he walked home through empty streets, heart aching and whole at the same time, carrying the weight of love that was brave enough to let go. The apartment felt different after Evelyn left. Not emptier, she'd never lived there, but hollower, like the walls themselves knew something essential had been removed. Darius went through the motions of daily life with mechanical precision. Wake up, get Naya ready for school, attend classes, study, work his shifts, come home, repeat. Every night before bed, Nia tore a link off the paper chain and dropped it in a shoebox she kept under her bed. Day 1, day 2, day 3. The chain grew shorter, but the year ahead stretched endlessly. Evelyn called the first night from a hotel in Portland, her voice crackling through bad reception. "I made it," she said, and Darius could hear the exhaustion beneath the words. "It's overwhelming. The office is 3 times the size of Boston. The team's bigger than I expected, and I already miss you both so much it hurts." Nia grabbed the phone from Darius's hand. "Did you tear your chain link?" "I did, Bug. First one's gone. Only 364 to go." "That's still a lot." "Aha." "I know," Evelyn said, "but we'll get through it together." They talked for an hour, passing the phone back and forth, filling the distance with voices and promises. When they finally hung up, Darius tucked Nia in and then stood in the kitchen staring at his own paper chain, identical to the one he'd watched Evelyn pack. He tore off the first link and let it fall into the trash. 1 day down. The weeks blurred together. Darius finished his coursework with grades that surprised even him. His instructors started mentioning job opportunities, facilities that were hiring, connections they could make. For the first time in years, the future looked less like survival and more like possibility. But the nights were hard. He'd gotten used to Evelyn's presence, the way she'd text random thoughts at midnight, the way she'd show up with coffee on mornings he looked particularly exhausted, the way she fit into the spaces of his life like she'd always belonged there. Without her, those spaces gaped. They video called 3 times a week. Evelyn would prop her phone against a stack of files in her temporary apartment, and Darius would set his on the kitchen table. They'd eat dinner together across 3000 M, Naya chattering about school while Evelyn asked questions, and Darius watched the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. "How's the expansion going?" Darius asked one night in May after Nia had gone to bed. Evelyn rubbed her temples, looking worn in a way that made his chest ache. "Complicated. The West Coast market is different from Boston, more competitive. We've had to pivot the entire launch strategy twice already." "You'll figure it out," Darius said. "You always do." "On it." "I hope so. My board is breathing down my neck, and if this doesn't work, I'll have uprooted my entire life for nothing." "It won't be for nothing," Darius said. "Even if the expansion fails, which it won't, you tried. That matters." Evelyn smiled, tired but genuine. "You sound like me." "I learn from the best." "How's the program?" "Almost done. 2 more months of clinicals, and then I take the certification exam." "Darius, that's incredible." "Yeah," he said, then admitted, "terrifying, but incredible." He paused. "There's a position opening up at the teaching hospital where I'm doing my rotation. Medical technician in the cardiology unit. My supervisor mentioned I should apply." Evelyn's face brightened. "Are you going to?" I don't know. It's a good opportunity, but it's also more hours than I'm working now. I need to figure out childcare, and Mrs. Chen's been having health problems. I'm not sure she can keep watching Nia as much as I'd need." "What about after-school programs?" Evelyn asked. "The city has subsidized options, right?" "They do," Darius said, "but the waiting lists are months long." Evelyn was quiet for a moment, and Darius could see her mind working. "What if I helped with costs?" she said carefully, "just until you're settled in the new position." "Evelyn, before you say no," she cut in, "hear me out. This isn't charity. This is an investment in someone I love building the life he deserves. You can pay me back if it makes you feel better, but don't let pride stop you from taking an opportunity that could change everything." Darius wanted to argue, to keep the boundary he'd fought so hard to establish. But he was tired of fighting, tired of doing everything alone, and maybe accepting help wasn't weakness. Maybe it was trust. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." Evelyn's shoulders sagged with relief. "Yeah?" "Yeah," Darius said, "but I'm paying you back with interest." Evelyn laughed, the sound crackling through the speakers. "Deal. Now go apply for that job." He did. The next morning, before he could second-guess himself, Darius submitted his application along with a recommendation letter from his clinical supervisor. 2 weeks later, he got the call for an interview. The interview was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Darius borrowed a tie from one of the other techs, pressed his one good shirt until the creases were sharp, and showed up 15 minutes early. The hiring manager was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Tell me why you want this position," she said after the preliminary questions. Darius chose honesty. "Because I want to build something stable for my daughter. I want to use my brain for more than mopping floors. And because I've spent the last year learning that I'm capable of more than I gave myself credit for." She studied him for a long moment. "You have a good record from your clinicals. Dr. Patterson speaks highly of your work ethic and your ability to stay calm under pressure. But you're still new to this field. What makes you think you can handle the pace of a cardiology unit?" Darius didn't hesitate. "I've been handling pressure my whole adult life. I was a single father at 29 when my wife died of cancer. I raised a daughter while working full-time and going back to school. I know how to prioritize, how to think on my feet, and how to keep going when everything feels impossible. If I can do that, I can handle your cardiology unit." The corner of her mouth lifted. Fair point. 3 days later, they offered him the job. Darius called Evelyn the moment he got the email, his hands shaking as he held the phone. "I got it," he said when she answered. "The position?" "Yeah, I start in 2 weeks." Evelyn's scream of joy was so loud he had to pull the phone away from his ear. "Darius, oh my God, I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done it without you." Yes, you could have, Evelyn said, voice thick. But I'm glad I got to be part of it anyway. That night, Darius took Nia out for ice cream to celebrate. She ordered her usual mint chip and kicked her legs under the table, grinning with green-stained teeth. Does this mean we'll have more money? She asked. It means things will be a little easier. Yeah, she brightened immediately. Can we get a puppy? Darius laughed. Maybe someday. Let's start with keeping the lights on, he teased, and Nia giggled. Then her face turned serious like it always did when she tried to be brave. When's Evelyn coming home? The question hit him like it always did, unexpected and sharp. He glanced at the paper chain hanging in Nia's room, now half its original length. 6 more months, Bug. That's still forever. I know, Darius said softly, but she calls us all the time and we'll visit her this summer, remember? Nia's eyes widened. We're going to see the ocean. That's right. They'd planned the trip for July, a long weekend in Portland, where Evelyn could show them her new city and they could remember what it felt like to be in the same room. Darius had been saving every spare dollar, and with the new job, the trip felt less like fantasy and more like something real. Summer arrived with heat that turned the city sluggish and irritable. Darius started his new position, and the learning curve was steep. The cardiology unit moved at a relentless pace. Emergencies, surgeries, post-op care, equipment that cost more than his annual salary. But he loved it, loved the challenge, loved the way his mind had to stay sharp, loved the feeling that his work actually mattered. His co-workers noticed. Dr. Patterson pulled him aside after his second week. You're doing well, Mitchell. Better than most new techs. Keep it up and there's room to grow here. Thank you, sir. And Mitchell, Patterson said. Stop calling me sir. It's just Patterson. Darius grinned. Yes, sir. I mean, Patterson. The older man chuckled and clapped him on the shoulder before walking away. July came fast. Darius and Nia flew to Portland on a Thursday morning, Nia's face pressed against the airplane window the entire flight. Evelyn met them at the airport, and the moment Nia saw her, she broke into a run. Ev! Evelyn caught her, spinning her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. When she set Nia down, she looked at Darius, and the distance between them collapsed in an instant. Hi, she said softly. Hi, he whispered. He kissed her there in the arrivals terminal, passengers streaming around them, and for the first time in 3 months, the world felt whole again. They spent the weekend exploring Portland. Evelyn took them to Powell's Books, where Nia got lost in the children's section for 2 hours. They visited the Japanese garden and walked through rows of manicured trees and koi ponds. They ate at food trucks and watched street performers and stayed up late talking on the balcony of Evelyn's apartment while Nia slept inside. I hate that you're so far away, Darius said, his hand tracing patterns on Evelyn's arm. I know, Evelyn said. I hate it too, but you're doing good work. I can see it. You are too, he said. The way you talk about the expansion, the team, you're thriving. I am, but I'd trade it all to be back in Boston with you. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Darius turned to face her. Because you've worked too hard to build this, and because part of why I love you is that you're brave enough to chase the things that scare you. Evelyn's eyes shimmered. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They sat in comfortable silence, city lights glowing below them. 6 more months, Evelyn said. We can do 6 months. Yeah, Darius said. We can. The flight home felt shorter than the flight out, and when they landed in Boston, Darius felt the weight of separation settle back onto his shoulders. That night, Nia tore 3 links off the paper chain, one for each day they'd been in Portland, and counted the remaining links twice. 174, she announced. That's a lot less than 365, Darius said gently. I know, Nia said, voice small, but it's still a lot. Yeah, Bug, Darius murmured. It is. August brought routine. Darius's proficiency at the hospital grew, and his supervisors started trusting him with more complex cases. He assisted in surgeries, monitored critical patients, and slowly built a reputation as someone reliable. But the isolation gnawed at him. Most of his coworkers were younger, unmarried, without kids. They went out for drinks, after shifts, made plans on weekends, lived lives that didn't revolve around homework and bedtimes. Darius couldn't relate, so he kept his head down, did his work, and went home. One evening in late August, Patterson found him in the break room eating a sandwich alone. "You ever socialize, Mitchell?" Darius looked up, startled. "Not much time for it." "Make time. This job will burn you out if you don't have people to lean on." "I appreciate the advice," Darius said, "but I'm fine." Patterson sat down across from him, uninvited. "You got family here?" "She's 8, Darius said, thinking of Nia. "What about her mother?" "She passed, cancer, 4 years ago." Patterson's expression softened. "That's rough, I'm sorry." "Thanks." "So, you're doing this alone?" Patterson asked. "The job, the kid, everything." Not completely alone," Darius said. "I've got someone. She's just in Portland for work. Long distance for now. She comes back in February." Patterson nodded slowly. "That takes guts, both of you." Darius shrugged. "Didn't feel like we had a choice." "There's always a choice," Patterson said. "You chose to trust it would work. That's not nothing." The words settled into Darius like a stone in still water. He hadn't thought of it that way, as a choice rather than a circumstance. But Patterson was right. He and Evelyn had chosen this. Chosen the hard thing because they believed in what they were building. "Thanks," Darius said quietly. Patterson stood, tossed his coffee cup in the trash. "Hang in there, Mitchell. The hard parts don't last forever." September arrived with cooler air and shorter days. Nia started 3rd grade, and Darius enrolled her in an after-school program that kept her busy until he could pick her up after his shift. The new routine worked, barely, held together with careful scheduling and backup plans for backup plans. Evelyn's calls started coming less frequently, not because she cared less, but because her workload had intensified. The product launch was scheduled for October, and every conversation was tinged with stress. "I'm drowning," she admitted one night, her face pale on the video call. "The packaging supplier missed a deadline. Our distributor is threatening to pull out, and I've been living on 4 hours of sleep for 2 weeks. "Can your team help?" Darius asked. "They're doing everything they can," Evelyn said. "But at the end of the day, it's my name on the company, my reputation. If this fails, it's on me." "It won't fail," Darius said. You don't know that." "Yes, I do," he said. "Because you don't know how to fail. You just keep going until you figure it out." Evelyn smiled, exhausted but grateful. "I miss you." "I miss you too," Darius said. "So much." "How's Nia?" "Good. Obsessed with her new teacher. Wants to be a paleontologist now instead of a veterinarian." Evelyn laughed. "That lasted all of 2 months. She's thorough in her research." For a moment, the weight lifted. "I can't wait to be home," Evelyn said softly. "Sue out 146 days, Darius said before he could stop himself. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "You're counting." "Every single one." October came with falling leaves and the launch of Evelyn's West Coast product line. Darius watched the press release online, pride swelling in his chest as he read about Harvest and Hearth's expansion into major retail chains, about Evelyn's vision for sustainable, family-focused nutrition. The launch was successful beyond anyone's expectations. Sales exceeded projections. Media coverage was overwhelmingly positive. Evelyn's gamble had paid off. But when Darius called to congratulate her, she sounded hollow. You did it," he said. "Everything you worked for." "Yeah," Evelyn said. "You don't sound happy." "I am," she insisted. I thought it would feel different. Bigger somehow. But mostly I'm just tired." "That's normal," Darius said. "You've been running on fumes for months." "I know," Evelyn said. Then her voice shifted. "But Darius, I've been thinking. The board wants me to stay another 6 months, oversee the next phase, solidify the partnerships. They're offering a significant bonus." Darius's stomach dropped. "What did you tell them?" "I said I'd think about it." "Do you want to stay?" Silence stretched between them. I don't know," Evelyn said finally. "Part of me does. This is the opportunity I've been working toward my entire career. But the other part of me just wants to come home to you and Nia and stop feeling like I'm missing everything that matters." "What do you need from me?" Darius asked, voice tight. "Honesty," Evelyn said. "If I stay longer, does that change things between us?" Darius closed his eyes, fighting the fear clawing up his throat. "I don't want it to, but I can't promise it won't. 6 more months is a long time, Evelyn, and Nia's already struggling with how much longer this is taking." "I know," Evelyn whispered. "I'm struggling too. Then come home, Darius said. The bonus isn't worth losing what we have. But what if I resent you later? Evelyn asked. What if I always wonder what I gave up? The question hung in the air, painful and honest. I can't answer that for you, Darius said quietly, but I can tell you I'll still be here either way. Whether you come home in February or August, I'm not going anywhere. You promise? Evelyn asked, voice breaking. I promise. They talked for another hour, circling the decision without landing. When they finally hung up, Darius sat in the dark apartment, Nia asleep down the hall, and wondered if love was always this complicated. This constant negotiation between want and need, sacrifice and selfishness. 2 weeks later, Evelyn called with her answer. I'm coming home in February, she said. I told the board no. Relief crashed through him. Are you sure? I'm sure, Evelyn said. I built this company, Darius. I get to decide when enough is enough. And right now, enough is enough. I'm proud of you, Darius said, voice thick. For turning down money, for choosing what matters. I'm proud of you too, Evelyn said softly, for staying, for believing we could make it. November brought Thanksgiving, and Darius and Naya video called Evelyn while they ate turkey sandwiches at the kitchen table. Evelyn was in her office alone, eating takeout Chinese food. This is depressing, Evelyn said, holding up a container. Next year we'll all be together, Nia said firmly. You promised. I did, Evelyn said, eyes shining, and I keep my promises. They went around the table saying what they were thankful for. Nia said dinosaurs and her new friend at school. Darius said his job and the people who believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. Evelyn said the paper chain on her wall and the promise of February. After Nia went to bed, Darius and Evelyn stayed on the call, neither wanting to hang up. 93 days, Evelyn said. Darius smiled softly. You're counting too. Every single one. December arrived with snow and the weight of the holiday season. Darius took Nia to buy a tree, smaller than last year's, but still full and green. They decorated it with the same ornaments, the same lights, but this time there was an empty space on the couch where Evelyn should have been. Christmas morning, they opened presents over video call. Evelyn had shipped gifts weeks earlier. Books for Nia, a new jacket for Darius that fit perfectly. They'd sent her a framed photo of the three of them from July, smiling on the Portland waterfront. I keep it on my desk, Evelyn said, voice thick, so I can see you every day. 62 days, Nia announced, tearing another link off the chain. 62 days, Evelyn echoed. January came with bitter cold and the final stretch. Darius took his certification exam on a Tuesday morning. 3 hours of questions that tested everything he'd learned over the past year. When he walked out, he had no idea if he'd passed or failed. The results came 2 weeks later. He opened the email at work, hands shaking. Congratulations. You have successfully passed the medical technician certification examination. He sat down hard, staring at the screen, barely able to process the words. He'd done it. Against every odd, every obstacle, every moment of doubt, he'd actually done it. He called Evelyn immediately. I passed, he said when she answered. Evelyn screamed so loud he had to pull the phone away from his ear. Darius, oh my God, I knew you would. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, Evelyn said, laughing through tears. But I'm so glad I got to be part of it. That night, Patterson pulled him aside after his shift. Heard you passed your certification. Yes, sir. Good. We're making your position permanent. Full benefits, pay increase, the works. Congratulations, Mitchell. You earned it. Darius shook his hand, gratitude and disbelief tangled in his chest. Everything was finally coming together. The job, the certification, the life he'd been fighting to build. And in 37 days, Evelyn would be home. February 1st arrived with freezing rain and nervous anticipation. Darius and Nia cleaned the apartment, hung new curtains, stocked the fridge. Nia tore the last link off her paper chain and held it up triumphantly. 0 days left. 0 days, Darius agreed, heart pounding. Evelyn's flight landed at 6 o'clock in the evening. Darius and Nia waited at the airport, pressed against the barrier, watching passengers stream through arrivals. And then there she was, hair longer than before, face tired but radiant, eyes scanning the crowd until they found Darius and Nia. Her expression crumpled and she ran. They collided in the middle of the terminal, 3 people holding on like they'd never let go. Nia was crying. Evelyn was crying. Darius buried his face in Evelyn's hair and breathed her in, real and solid and finally home. "I missed you," Evelyn whispered. "So much." "We missed you too," Darius said, voice breaking. They stood there until people started staring, until Nia pulled back, wiped her eyes, and announced she was hungry. "Let's go home," Evelyn said. "Home," Darius echoed. The word had never sounded better. They drove home through rain-slicked streets, city lights blurring through the windshield like watercolor. Nia sat in the back, clutching Evelyn's hand through the gap between the seats, refusing to let go. In the end, they just drove slowly, Darius navigating familiar roads while stealing glances at the woman beside him, still half convinced she might disappear. The apartment looked different with Evelyn in it again, smaller somehow, but warmer. She set her suitcase by the door and stood in the middle of the living room, taking it all in. "It's exactly how I remembered," Evelyn said softly. "It's a mess," Darius said. "It's perfect." Nia tugged on Evelyn's sleeve. "Can you stay for dinner, please?" Evelyn looked at Darius, question in her eyes. He nodded. "I'm not going anywhere, Bug," Evelyn told Nia. "Not tonight, not for a long time." They ordered pizza and ate on the living room floor like they had a year ago before everything changed. Nia talked nonstop, filling Evelyn in on everything she'd missed. The school play where she'd been a tree, the science fair project on volcanoes that had exploded prematurely, the boy in her class who'd tried to kiss her and gotten sent to the principal's office. Evelyn listened with the kind of attention that made Nia glow, laughing in all the right places. Darius watched them together and felt something settle in his chest. A piece of himself he hadn't realized was missing clicking back into place. After dinner, Nia begged Evelyn to read her a bedtime story. They picked one of the dinosaur books from the library trip, and Darius listened from the hallway as Evelyn's voice rose and fell, making different voices for each character. When the story ended, Nia's voice came soft and sleepy. "Ev." "Yeah, Bug. Are you going to leave again?" The question hung in the air, and Darius held his breath. "No, sweetheart," Evelyn said gently. "I'm home now, for good." "You promise?" "I promise." "Good," Nia murmured, "because I really missed you." "I missed you too," Evelyn whispered. "More than you know." When Evelyn emerged from Nia's room, her eyes were red-rimmed. Darius was waiting in the kitchen, 2 mugs of tea steaming on the counter. "She asleep?" he asked. "Out cold. That kid could sleep through an earthquake." They carried their tea to the couch and sat close, not quite touching but aware of every inch of space between them. "So," Darius said softly, "you're really back." "I'm really back." Evelyn considered him. "How does it feel?" Darius searched for the right word. "Strange, good, scary. All of it at once." "Scary how?" "Like you've been gone so long, I don't know how to fit you back into our life," Evelyn admitted. "Like, maybe too much has changed." Darius set down his tea and turned to face her fully. "Things have changed. I've changed. You've changed. But that doesn't mean there's no room for you here. There's always been room for you, Evelyn, from the first night at that restaurant." "I want to believe that," she whispered. "Then believe it." She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. They sat like that for a long time, listening to the rain against the windows, feeling the weight of a year apart begin to lift. "I have something to tell you," Evelyn said eventually. Darius's stomach tightened. "Good something or bad something?" "Good," she said. "At least I think it's good." She pulled back to look at him. The Portland expansion was more successful than anyone projected. The board wants to replicate the model on the East Coast. They're opening a new facility in Cambridge, and they want me to run it. "Cambridge?" Darius breathed. "That's 20 minutes from here." "Exactly," Evelyn said, smiling through tears. "I'd be local again. No more cross-country flights. No more video calls at midnight." "That's incredible," Darius said. "That's everything." "There's more," Evelyn said, and her voice shifted into something fierce and excited. They want to launch a new product line focused on children's nutrition. Real practical stuff for families dealing with picky eaters, food insecurity, budget constraints. And I want to build it around stories. Real families, real struggles. Darius stared at her. "Like us?" "Like you," she said softly. "You and thousands of parents like you. People doing their best with limited resources who deserve products that actually help instead of selling them a glossy fantasy." She took his hand. I've been thinking about this the whole year I was gone, about how you stretched $50 to buy dinner, how you calculated every menu item, how you still made Nia feel safe and loved even when you were barely holding it together. That's the audience I want to serve. Darius swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me, Evelyn said. Consult. Tell me what actually matters to parents who are struggling. Be the voice that keeps this authentic. You want me to work with Harvest and Hearth? Not for me, Evelyn said quickly. With me, and only if you want to. I know you've got the hospital position now, and that's incredible, but maybe we can find a way to do both. Evening consulting, weekend focus groups, whatever works with your schedule. Darius's mind raced. The hospital job was stable, everything he'd worked for, but this was a chance to be part of something bigger, to help families like his, to build something with the woman he loved. Can I think about it? He asked. Of course, Evelyn said. Take all the time you need. They talked until past midnight, catching up on everything the phone calls had missed. Evelyn told him about Portland, the good parts and the lonely parts, the triumphs and the nights she'd cried in her empty apartment. Darius told her about the exam, about Patterson's mentorship, about the moments he'd almost given up but kept going because she told him he could. When Evelyn finally left, it was close to 1 o'clock in the morning. Darius walked her to her car, the rain reduced to a fine mist. Thank you for tonight, Evelyn said, for letting me back in. You were never out, Darius said. She kissed him soft and certain, then drove away into the wet night. Darius stood on the sidewalk until her taillights disappeared, then went inside to an apartment that felt less empty than it had in a year. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Evelyn found an apartment in Cambridge, close enough that she could stop by after work. She started attending Nia's school events, parent-teacher conferences, weekend soccer games. Slowly, carefully, she wove herself back into the fabric of their lives. But it wasn't seamless. There were adjustments, friction points neither had anticipated. Evelyn was used to independence, to making decisions without consultation. Darius was used to being the sole parent, the only one who got to decide bedtimes and screen time and what constituted an acceptable vegetable serving. The first real argument came on a Tuesday evening. Evelyn had picked up Nia from school and taken her for ice cream without asking Darius first. When they came home, Nia was wired on sugar, and it was already past dinner time. I was going to make spaghetti, Darius said, trying to keep his voice even. I thought ice cream would be a nice treat, Evelyn replied. It is, Darius said, but she has homework and a bedtime, and now she's bouncing off the walls. So she stays up a little later, Evelyn said. It's not the end of the world. It's not about one night, Darius said. It's about routine, structure, things that matter when you're raising a kid. Evelyn's expression hardened. I'm not trying to undermine you. I was just trying to do something nice. I know, Darius said, but you have to ask first. You can't just make decisions about Nia without talking to me. Why? Evelyn asked, and the hurt in her voice surprised him. Because I'm not her parent? The words hung between them, sharp and painful. That's not fair, Darius said quietly. Isn't it? Evelyn's eyes shone. I've been back for 3 weeks. I'm trying to figure out where I fit. In your life, in Nia's life, and every time I make a move, I feel like I'm stepping on your toes. Because you are, Darius admitted, then softened. Not because I don't want you here, but because we need to figure this out together. We can't just assume we know how this works. Evelyn sat down heavily on the couch, the fight draining out of her. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have asked. Darius sat beside her. I'm sorry, too, for making you feel like you don't belong here. You do. We just need to communicate better. I don't know how to do this, Evelyn whispered. Be part of a family. I've been on my own for so long. So have I, Darius said. But we're not on our own anymore. That's the whole point. Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. How do we make this work? The same way we made the long distance work, Darius said. We keep showing up, we keep trying, and we give each other grace when we screw up. I can do that, Evelyn said. Me too. They established new routines, new boundaries. Sunday dinners became their planning meeting. Darius, Evelyn, and Nia sitting at the table mapping out the week ahead. Who would pick up Nia on which days? What activities were happening? When Evelyn could join them and when she needed space to focus on work. Nia adjusted better than either adult. She accepted Evelyn's presence with the easy flexibility of childhood, thrilled to have another person who cared about her dinosaur facts and helped with math homework. But occasionally she'd ask questions that cut to the heart of things. "Is Evelyn going to be my mom now?" Nia asked one night while Darius tucked her in. "What do you think about that?" Darius asked gently. Nia chewed her lip. "I don't want to forget my real mom." "You won't ever," Darius promised. "No one can replace her, Bug. But that doesn't mean there isn't room in your heart for other people who love you." "So Evelyn can be like a bonus person," Nia decided. Darius smiled. "Yeah, a bonus person." "Okay," Nia said, satisfied. "I like having a bonus person." "Me too," Darius whispered, kissing her forehead. March brought Darius's first consulting project for Harvest and Hearth. Evelyn organized a focus group of single parents and low-income families to test prototypes for the new children's nutrition line. Darius sat in a conference room with 8 other parents tasting samples, filling out surveys, sharing honest feedback about what worked and what didn't. Afterward, Evelyn pulled him aside. "You were amazing in there," she said. "I just told the truth." "Exactly," Evelyn said. "That's what this needs. Not marketing speak, not corporate messaging, just real people saying real things." "The strawberry yogurt needs less sugar," Darius said. "And the packaging is too hard to open. Parents dealing with morning rush don't have time to wrestle with containers." Evelyn was taking notes furiously. "This is gold. Can you do another session next month?" "Yeah," Darius said. "I'd like that." Working together changed something between them. Darius saw Evelyn in her element, brilliant, focused, asking the right questions and actually listening to the answers. Evelyn saw Darius's quiet competence, the way other parents gravitated toward him, trusted his perspective. "You should do this professionally," Evelyn said one evening after another focus group. "Parent advocacy, consulting, something. You have a gift for cutting through nonsense and finding what matters." "I've got the hospital job," Darius said. "I know," Evelyn said, "but maybe there's room for both. Just think about it." He did think about it, late at night after Nia was asleep, early in the morning before his shift started. The hospital work was good, stable, respectable, everything he'd worked for. But the consulting work felt meaningful in a different way. Like he was helping families who reminded him of himself a year ago, struggling and invisible and just trying to survive. April arrived with spring rain and an unexpected phone call from Patterson. "Mitchell," Patterson said, "my office when you get a chance." Darius's stomach dropped. When you get a chance in hospital speak usually meant immediately. He finished calibrating the equipment he'd been working on and headed to Patterson's office, mentally reviewing the past week for any mistakes. Patterson was at his desk, reading, glasses perched on his nose, a folder open in front of him. "Sit," he said without looking up. Darius sat. Patterson closed the folder and studied him. "You've been with us how long now?" 14 months, Darius said. "And in that time, you've become one of the most reliable techs in this unit. Patients ask for you by name. Surgeons trust you. Your error rate is practically non-existent." "Thank you," Darius said. Patterson's eyes sharpened. "So why are you leaving?" Darius's heart stopped. "I'm not—" "Don't insult me, Mitchell," Patterson said. "I've seen the consulting work you're doing. Heard about the focus groups. You've got one foot out the door already." "That's not true," Darius said quickly. "I'm committed to this job." "Are you?" Patterson asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're building something else. And I don't blame you. Hospital work burns people out, especially people with your brain." Darius didn't know what to say. Patterson leaned back in his chair. "I'm not firing you. I'm offering you a choice. You can stay full-time and be a damn good medical tech. Or you can go part-time, cut your hours to 20 a week, and have time to pursue whatever it is you're building with that food company." "Part-time," Darius said, stunned. "I can't afford—" "Benefits stay the same," Patterson cut in. "Hourly rate actually increases because you'll be considered specialized per decimeter. Do the math. 20 hours here at a higher rate plus consulting income, you might actually come out ahead." Darius's mind raced. "Why would you offer me that?" he asked. "Because I don't want to lose you entirely," Patterson said. "And because I've been doing this job for 30 years, Mitchell. I can spot talent, and I can spot someone who's meant for more than running equipment." Patterson's voice softened, just a fraction. "So take the part-time position, build whatever it is you're building. And when you're too successful to work here anymore, At least I can say I helped. Darius swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Patterson said. Then get out of my office. I've got budget meetings all afternoon. Darius stood, extended his hand. Thank you for believing in me. Patterson shook it firmly. Thank me by not wasting it. That night, Darius told Evelyn and Naya about the offer over dinner at Evelyn's apartment. Pasta with homemade sauce, salad, fresh bread from a bakery down the street. Oh, you have to take it, Evelyn said immediately. It's a risk, Darius said. Everything worth doing is a risk, Evelyn replied. You taught me that. Nia looked between them, confused. What does part-time mean? It means Dad would work fewer hours at the hospital and help Evelyn more with her company, Darius explained. Naya's face lit up. Would we see you more? Yeah, Bug, Darius said. I'd have more flexibility. Could pick you up from school more often, maybe even coach your soccer team. Nia practically bounced in her chair. Really? Maybe, Darius said, smiling, if you want me to. I want you to. Evelyn reached across the table, took Darius's hand. This is the right move. I can feel it. What if it doesn't work out? Darius asked, the old fear rising. Then we figure it out together, Evelyn said. That's what we do now. Remember? Darius looked at the two of them, Nia already chattering about soccer drills, Evelyn watching him with quiet confidence, and realized she was right. He wasn't alone anymore. He didn't have to carry every decision, every risk, every fear by himself. Okay, he said, I'll do it. May brought change in layers. Darius transitioned to part-time at the hospital and increased his consulting with Harvest and Hearth. Evelyn officially launched the Children's Nutrition Initiative with Darius as the lead parent consultant. They held workshops, conducted surveys, tested products in real homes with real families. The work was exhausting and exhilarating. Darius found himself speaking at community centers, writing blog posts for the company website, appearing in promotional videos where he talked about budgeting, nutrition, and the reality of feeding kids when money was tight. You're a natural at this, Evelyn told him after he led a particularly successful workshop. I'm just telling the truth, Darius said. That's why it works, Evelyn said. People trust you. The initiative gained traction. Parents started sharing stories on social media, tagging Harvest and Hearth, thanking them for creating products that actually understood their lives. Evelyn's board noticed. Sales increased. The company's reputation shifted from just another organic brand to something that felt personal, human, necessary. And through it all, Darius and Evelyn built a life together. Not the perfect Instagram-worthy kind, something real and messy and resilient. They argued about Nia's bedtime and who forgot to buy milk. They celebrated small victories and supported each other through hard days. They learned each other's rhythms, moods, fears. One Saturday in June, Evelyn took Darius and Nia back to Morello's, the same restaurant where everything had started 18 months ago. Why are we here? Darius asked as they walked in. You'll see. The host led them to a table near the window. Not the exact same table where Darius had waited alone, but close enough to see it. Evelyn had reserved it specially. They ordered food, real food this time. No budget calculations, no careful menu scanning, just 3 people sharing a meal together. Nia demolished a plate of spaghetti while Darius and Evelyn talked about the week ahead. A product launch, a soccer tournament, a weekend trip to the coast. When dessert came, Evelyn cleared her throat. I brought you here because this is where it started, she said. Where you showed up even though everything in your life told you not to. Where I saw you trying not to break and decided to do something about it. Evelyn, let me finish. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. Darius's heart stopped. This isn't what you think, Evelyn said quickly, seeing his expression. I'm not proposing, not yet, but I wanted to give you something. She opened the box. Inside was a simple silver keychain with 3 interlocking rings. One for each of us, she explained, because we're not separate anymore. We're family. Darius stared at it, throat tight. And I know we haven't figured out all the details, Evelyn continued. Whether I move in, whether we get married, all of that. But I wanted you to know I'm all in. Completely. Whatever comes next, we do it together. Darius took the keychain. The metal was warm from her hand, solid and real. He looked at Nia, who was watching with wide eyes, then back at Evelyn. I don't have anything prepared to say, he admitted. Oh, you don't need to, Evelyn said. Just tell me you feel the same. I do, Darius said, voice breaking. I'm all in too. Both of us are. Nia leaned across the table, dead serious. Does this mean Evelyn's officially my bonus person forever? Evelyn laughed, tears spilling over. Yeah, Bug, forever. They finished dinner in a bubble of happiness, the restaurant humming around them. When the check came, Darius paid with his credit card. Not because he had to prove anything, but because he could. Because the $50 in his wallet 18 months ago had turned into stability, opportunity, a future built on more than survival. As they walked to the car, Nia skipping ahead, Evelyn slipped her hand into Darius's. Thank you, she said. For what? For letting me be part of this, Evelyn said. Part of your life, your family. I know it wasn't easy. Nothing worth having is easy, Darius said. You taught me that. We taught each other, Darius said. July brought a surprise invitation. Harvest and Hearth had been nominated for a national award recognizing companies with exceptional social impact. The ceremony was in New York, and Evelyn wanted Darius there as her guest. I can't take credit for your work, Darius protested. You're not taking credit, Evelyn said. You're part of the work. The whole Children's Nutrition Initiative exists because you showed me what mattered. Come with me, please. They got Mrs. Chen to watch Naya for the weekend and took the train to New York. The ceremony was at a hotel in Manhattan, all marble floors and chandeliers. Darius felt out of place in his rented tux, and as a black man in a room like that, he could feel eyes glance and slide away, assumptions made and revised in silence. Evelyn's hand was firm in his as they navigated the crowd of executives and entrepreneurs. When Harvest and Hearth won, Evelyn walked to the stage alone. But when she gave her acceptance speech, she talked about single parents, about families stretching budgets, about a man who'd shown up to a restaurant with $50 and the courage to keep trying. This award isn't mine alone, she said, looking directly at Darius in the audience. It belongs to every parent who's doing their best with what they have, to the people who inspired this work by living it every single day. The applause was thunderous. Darius felt tears on his face and didn't bother to hide them. Afterward, at the reception, people kept approaching Darius, asking about his story, his work, his perspective. By the end of the night, he had business cards from 3 organizations wanting to hire him as a consultant. Hoyt, you could do this full time, Evelyn said on the train ride home, head on his shoulder. Leave the hospital completely. Build your own consulting practice. That's terrifying, Darius admitted. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? I don't know yet. Then think about it, Evelyn said. You've got time. August came with lazy days and the slow realization that life had become something Darius hadn't dared to imagine 2 years ago. He had meaningful work, financial stability, a partner who challenged and supported him, a daughter who was thriving. One evening after Nia was asleep, Evelyn brought up the conversation they'd been dancing around for months. I think we should move in together, she said. They were on Darius's couch, the TV playing something neither was watching. Yeah? Darius asked, heart thudding. My lease is up in October, Evelyn said. Your lease is up in November. We could find a place together, something bigger, with a yard for Nia, an office for your consulting work, space for all of us. That's a big step, Darius said. I know, Evelyn said. Are you ready for it? Darius looked around the apartment, the place where he'd rebuilt his life after Tanya died, where he'd raised Nia alone, where Evelyn had first kissed him, first told him she loved him, first became part of their family. I'm ready, he said, but I want Nia to be part of the decision. This affects her, too. They told Nia the next morning over pancakes. Her reaction was immediate. Can I get a dog? Darius and Evelyn looked at each other and laughed. Maybe, Evelyn said, if we find a place that allows pets, then yes, let's move. They spent September looking at apartments and houses. Too expensive, too small, too far from Nia's school. Finally, they found a 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood 20 minutes from downtown. Hardwood floors, a backyard with an old oak tree, enough space for everyone to breathe. This is it, Nia declared the moment she saw her potential bedroom. You haven't even seen the whole house yet, Darius said. Don't care, Nia said. This is it. They signed the lease in early October and spent the next month packing, purging, combining 2 separate lives into one shared space. The move happened on a Saturday with help from Patterson, Mrs. Chen, and several parents from Darius's consulting groups. By evening, the house was chaos. Boxes everywhere, furniture half assembled, takeout containers on the kitchen counter. But it was theirs. Nia ran through the rooms, claiming spaces, planning where her dinosaur posters would go. Evelyn and Darius collapsed on the couch they'd just carried up 3 steps, exhausted and happy. "We did it," Evelyn said. "We did," Darius agreed. Evelyn looked at him, eyes bright. "Scared?" "Terrified," Darius admitted. "Good," Evelyn said, smiling. "Me too." That night, after they'd made up Nia's bed and tucked her in, after they'd assembled their own bed frame and found the sheets, Darius and Evelyn stood in their new bedroom, looking at boxes labeled with both their names. "This is real now," Darius whispered. "It's been real," Evelyn said. "This is just more real." He pulled her close, and she wrapped her arms around his waist, both of them swaying slightly from exhaustion. "I love you," Darius said into her hair. "I love you too," Evelyn whispered. November brought Thanksgiving, their first holiday in the new house. Evelyn cooked an ambitious spread: turkey, stuffing, roasted vegetables, 3 kinds of pie. Darius helped where he could, mostly by staying out of the way and keeping Nia entertained. Mrs. Chen joined them, along with Patterson and his wife. They crammed around the dining table, mismatched chairs, borrowed plates, passing food and stories and laughter. When it came time to say what they were thankful for, Nia went first. "I'm thankful for dinosaurs and my new room and that Evelyn's here all the time now and not just on weekends." Patterson talked about good employees who made his job easier. Mrs. Chen talked about chosen family and the privilege of watching children grow. When it was Darius's turn, he looked around the table, at Nia, at Evelyn, at the people who'd supported him through the hardest years of his life. "I'm thankful for second chances," he said, "and for people who see you when you're invisible, and for the courage to keep showing up even when it's scary." Evelyn squeezed his hand under the table. Her turn. "I'm thankful for a man who taught me that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real," Evelyn said, "and for a little girl who let me into her life, even though she didn't have to, and for the reminder that the best things are always worth the risk." December arrived with snow, and the anniversary of the night Darius had first walked into Morello's. 2 years since the worst and best night of his life had collided. Evelyn planned something special. She arranged for Mrs. Chen to watch Nia overnight and told Darius to dress nice. "Where are we going?" he asked for the 100th time as they drove through the city. "You'll see," Evelyn said. They pulled up to Morello's. Darius turned to her, understanding dawning. 2 years, Evelyn said softly. 2 years, Darius echoed. They walked inside, and the host led them to a table near the window, the same table where Evelyn had first sat down across from a broken stranger and offered him dignity. The restaurant was decorated for the holidays, white lights strung across the ceiling, evergreen garlands on the walls, jazz played softly. It was exactly the same and completely different. They ordered wine, real wine this time, and clinked glasses. "To showing up," Evelyn said. "To staying," Darius added. They talked through dinner about everything and nothing. Work updates, Nia's upcoming winter concert, plans for the holidays. Easy conversation built on 2 years of foundation, of knowing each other's stories, of choosing each other every single day. When dessert came, Evelyn reached across the table and took both of Darius's hands. "I have something to ask you," she said. Darius's heart started pounding. 2 years ago," Evelyn said, voice steady, "I watched you sit at a table alone, holding yourself together when everything had just fallen apart. I saw someone brave enough to keep trying, even when the world gave him every reason to quit. And I thought, that's the kind of person I want in my life." "Evelyn, let me finish," she said, smiling through tears. "These past 2 years, you've shown me what it means to build something real. Not perfect, not easy, real. You've taught me about courage and vulnerability and what it means to love someone completely, flaws and all. And I don't want to do life without you anymore." She pulled a small box from her purse and opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring. "Darius Mitchell," Evelyn whispered, "will you marry me?" The restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Darius stared at the ring, at this incredible woman who'd seen him at his lowest and chose him anyway, who'd built a life with him piece by careful piece. Yes, he said, voice breaking. Yes, absolutely, yes. Evelyn slipped the ring onto his finger, then she was around the table, and he was standing and they were holding each other, while the restaurant erupted in applause from diners who'd been watching without them realizing. I was going to ask you, Darius said against her shoulder. I had a ring and everything. You beat me to it, Evelyn laughed through tears. Sorry, Evelyn said. I'm impatient. I noticed, Darius said, smiling so hard it hurt. They kissed there in the middle of Morello's, where humiliation had once burned hot and bright, now transformed into joy so complete it felt like flying. When they finally sat back down, the waiter brought champagne on the house, and other diners sent over desserts with congratulations. They stayed until the restaurant closed, not wanting the night to end, not wanting to leave the space where everything had changed. On the drive home, Evelyn's hand in his, the ring catching streetlight, Darius thought about the man who'd walked into that restaurant 2 years ago, $50 in his wallet, heart full of fragile hope, convinced he didn't deserve anything beyond survival. That man felt like a stranger now. What are you thinking about? Evelyn asked. How far we've come, Darius said. Pretty far. Yeah. They picked up Naya from Mrs. Chen's house, and she immediately noticed the ring. Does this mean you're getting married? She asked, bouncing on her toes. It does, Darius said. Can I be in the wedding? Of course, Evelyn said. You're the most important person there. Nia threw her arms around both of them, and they stood in Mrs. Chen's driveway in the cold December night. 3 people who'd found each other through courage and chance, and the simple act of showing up. The wedding happened in May, small and intimate in the backyard of their house. Nia wore a purple dress and carried a basket of flowers. Patterson officiated, his booming voice carrying across the yard. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony. Darius and Evelyn wrote their own vows. Evelyn went first, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. Darius, you taught me that strength isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up anyway. You taught me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your biggest supporter. I promise to see you always the way I saw you that first night. And I promise to keep showing up no matter what. Then Darius's turn. He looked at Evelyn, at Nia standing beside them, at the small crowd of people who believed in them. Evelyn, he said, voice shaking. 2.5 years ago, I walked into a restaurant with $50 and no hope. You gave me both dignity and possibility when I had neither. You saw me when I was invisible. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. You taught me that letting people in isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. I promise to build this life with you, whatever it looks like. I promise to be honest, to communicate, to never stop trying, and I promise that you and Nia will always have a home in my heart, no matter what. Patterson pronounced them married, and they kissed while their guests cheered. Naya threw flower petals everywhere, laughing with pure joy. The reception was simple: catered food from local restaurants, music from a playlist they'd made together, dancing on the grass under string lights. Darius's consulting colleagues came, Evelyn's board members came, the single parents from the focus groups came, people from all the different pieces of their lives gathered to celebrate what they'd built. Late in the evening, after the cake was cut and the toasts were made and Nia was asleep on the couch inside, Darius and Evelyn stood in their backyard watching the last guests leave. We did it, Evelyn said, leaning against him. We did, Darius said. Think we can do the rest? Evelyn asked. The rest, Darius repeated. The next 50 years, Evelyn said softly. The mortgage, the arguments, the boring Tuesday nights, all of it. Darius thought about the question seriously, about everything they'd overcome to get here, about the work still ahead, blending their lives completely, raising Naya together, building careers that mattered, weathering whatever storms came next. Yeah, he said finally. I think we can. Good, Evelyn whispered. Me too. 6 months later, Harvest and Hearth's Children's Nutrition Initiative won a National Innovation Award. Darius accepted it on behalf of all the families who'd contributed their stories, their struggles, their honest feedback. This isn't about me, he said into the microphone, Evelyn watching from the front row. This is about every parent who's ever stood in a grocery store calculating how to make $20 stretch across a week of meals. Every person who's been told they're not enough because they can't afford organic or name brand or whatever marketing tells them they need. You are enough. Your love is enough. Your effort is enough. And there are people in companies who see you, who value you, who are building things specifically for you. Keep showing up. It matters more than you know. The applause was deafening. That night, Darius's phone lit up with messages from parents across the country, thanking him, sharing their own stories, asking for advice. He showed them to Evelyn later, both of them in their pajamas, reviewing the messages in bed. "You've started something," Evelyn said. "Well, we started something," Darius corrected. "True," Evelyn said. "But you're the face of it, the voice. People trust you." "That's terrifying," Darius admitted. "Good," Evelyn said, smiling into his shoulder. "Terrifying or bad terrifying?" "Good," Darius said after a moment. "I think mostly good." Evelyn kissed his shoulder. "I'm proud of you, for all of it." "I'm proud of us," Darius said. "Yeah," Evelyn whispered. "Us." Nia started 4th grade that fall. She decided she wanted to be a scientist, specifically a paleontologist who discovered new dinosaurs and named them after people she loved. She'd already picked out names. "The first one will be called Daddy Saurus," she announced at dinner one night. "What about me?" Evelyn asked, mock offended. "The second one," Nia said solemnly. "Evelyn Saurus." "Obviously," Evelyn said, laughing. "Obviously," Darius echoed, grinning. They settled into the rhythms of family life, soccer games on Saturdays, family dinners on Sundays, homework battles, and bedtime negotiations. The 1,000 small moments that made up a life together. Sometimes, late at night when the house was quiet, Darius would stand in the doorway of Nia's room and watch her sleep. Or he'd find Evelyn working at the kitchen table, papers spread everywhere, completely absorbed. In those moments, he'd remember the apartment where he'd lived alone, the weight of doing everything himself, the fear that this was all his life would ever be. And he'd feel gratitude so profound it almost hurt. 2 years after their wedding, on a cold February evening, Darius and Evelyn returned to Morello's one more time. Not for an anniversary, not for a celebration, just because. They sat at a table near the window, ordered food they didn't calculate the cost of, and talked about their week. Evelyn's new product line, Darius's expanded consulting practice, Nia's upcoming science fair project, ordinary conversation, ordinary life. And somehow, impossibly more than Darius had ever dreamed possible. When the check came, Darius pulled out his wallet and smiled at what he found inside. Not $50 stretched thin, but a life stretched wide, full, rich, built on the simple truth that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is show up. Even when it's scary, even when everything says not to, even when you're not sure you deserve it. "What are you smiling about?" Evelyn asked. Darius looked at his wife across the table, at the ring on his finger, at the life they'd built from courage and kindness and the willingness to try. "Everything," he said. "Absolutely everything." They paid the check, walked out into the Boston night, and drove home together, to the house where Nia was waiting with Mrs. Chen, probably still awake even though she should have been asleep, to the life that had started with humiliation and transformed into joy. To the family they'd chosen, to the future they were building together. And somewhere in the city, in another restaurant or coffee shop or quiet moment of desperation, another person sat alone, wondering if they'd ever be seen, wondering if they'd ever be enough, wondering if showing up was worth the risk. Darius hoped they'd find their answer, hoped they'd find their Evelyn, hoped they'd discover what he'd learned that night 2.5 years ago in a restaurant with $50 and a breaking heart. That sometimes the worst moments become doorways. That courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means showing up anyway. And that the people who see you when you're invisible, who offer dignity when you're drowning, who choose you when you're certain you're not worth choosing, those people change everything. They make the impossible possible. They turn survival into living. They remind you that you were always worthy. You just needed someone brave enough to show up.